1. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, democratic processes have always been about math, and simply put, on side opposition, the math is not mathing. Given trends of growing technological development, like what we see in healthcare, what we see in technology, on average, the quality of life of a human being has been improving, and this has led to a growing population and an increase in lifespan. Meaning, people are more and they're here to stay longer, so the democratic process, more than just being important, also has to be able to pivot and adjust. That is to say, this is particularly about the status quo of the 543 individuals. And simply put, this was quite dated already, meaning this is decades behind, and we tell you that the population growth has grown since then in order to give, on average, the average citizen and individual the proportional treatment they deserve. They should also improve the ratio between the particular individuals who are running and who these people are voting for. That is to say, the problem with not expanding is that it fucks with the ratio and proportion of the voter population and the majority decision. Because democracies have always been built on a majority decision, and at some point in the future, as the population grows, it will hit an inflection point wherein the majority will no longer be the majority, and that ultimately wrecks the capacity to be able to particularly position yourself to be able to get votes, and it harms the ability of people to get elected. A few strategic observations of top half. Top half is too locked in and nuanced on the present. A lot of what they say is speculative at best, and we do not know the future. The BJP, majority of the time, probably are gonna continue staying in power, but so much variable change and shit can happen, and that there might be an upset by a minority party. We think a lot of these hyper-specific nuances don't particularly matter, because more than the democratic picture we get right now in the present, this debate is about future-proofing India and the democratic process moving forward in order to deal with these changing conditions. Opening government, particularly in the part about deputy, was correct to be able to say that yes, democracies are important, but let me extend that. More than just democracies being important, we need to be able to see how this affects the particular people running for office and being able to position themselves to be able to get votes, as well as the very people whose quality of life on average is something we want to take care about. Opening opposition case is hyperfixated on gerrymandering. Like what my POI said to the immediate previous speaker, gerrymandering is going to happen on both sides. The delta you get coming from our side is that it's going to literally make gerrymandering harder at the point in which you literally have to be able to cater to more people. Meaning, as the population is able to grow, it makes it quite expensive and difficult for those particular people to be able to spend more budget at the point in which there's also more competition among those particular seats. And we think that that gives people a plurality of options to be able to choose from. Meaning, if smaller populations used to have less representatives and people didn't take those particular people seriously, on the perspective of the candidates, it actually allows them to be able to represent more views, thus extending the Overton window, therefore de-radicalizing particular areas and allowing people more plurality to be able to vote upon that. And on the converse, on the perspective of people, it makes things like vote buying and gerrymandering harder at the point in which you're able to cater to these particular individuals. On both sides, it's going to happen, but on our side, it gets particularly harder. My extension is going to be able to nuance it more on exactly how population growth happens and how this uniquely helps the particular individual. The nuance is that population growth often happens disproportionately, meaning due to things like circumstance, technology, and budgets. Some areas stay the same, they're often mid. Some areas which are more developed and have more funding and inflows and capital coming in are able to grow at a faster pace, but also some other areas which might even expand or get smaller eventually shrink their particular population. Meaning, because of this disproportionate growth, we need to be able to respond to it in a proportional manner. Meaning, we're completely fine to be able to say that areas that are growing are going to have more, areas that are the same are going to have the same, and areas that shrink might even shrink. But we think it has to be a proportional manner in order to particularly represent those people. Because, more than our opening talk to you about, which is the value of a democratic vote, we also have to understand the quality of life of those particular people. And because of these particular processes, they need to be able to see these particular people better and be able to make better legislative reforms and laws better for those particular individuals. How exactly does that happen? What are the strategic reasons? Number one, you're able to actually take a more proximate and myopic view at these particular individuals when you start understanding how every single taxpayer has a particular contribution to GDP. Meaning, yeah, it's completely fine. Some areas naturally are going to be more, and as a consequence, those things which affect more people have to get more budget and be taken seriously. Opening opposition, go for it, please.
Yeah, if the quality of life was so good for these areas and they are able to increase the population, why are you still catering towards them and giving them more?
Because it's not bad that some areas are larger. These often have implications, like a fucking capital city with a big airport has more people, there's more financial districts and jobs. You literally need to be able to cater to more of those particular individuals. And it works both ways, right? These particular people have their politicians care more about them, and these particular politicians have more of an incentive to be able to care about these peoples and be able to see that more than just being a taxpayer, they're an individual they have to be able to serve and cater to if they want to do something like get re-elected in the next incentive cycle or the next electoral cycle in order for those particular people to be done. So, what do we tell you? We tell you that in order to deal with the changing world order and environment, you need to be able to preserve the proportionality between a particular person running for office or a candidate and the particular majority of people voting them into power. That needs to be able to expand in order to be able to create a mutually beneficial incentive structure for them to be a check and balance to each other. And with that, we are very proud to stand on side government.